I'm sure that many of you have noticed that if you watch something like the Academy Awards, or maybe something that's sports related like the ESPYs, or something that's related to musical awards, there's always a segment in the show, in the event, in memoriam, in memory. And people from that genre of life are remembered. You know, when they have the Academy Awards here, and whenever they're going to have them, if they have them, when they have the in memoriam, one of the people to remember is James Bond, Sean Connery. You know, in baseball, remember, Don Larson or whomever. People who've been part of our lives, and these are people at a distance that we remember. And hopefully, whether we've known them or not, we do remember them, hopefully, with a silent prayer, or sort of a prayer that says, thanks for the memories. Well, this tradition of remembering has been part of the Catholic Church forever. We've been around over 2,000 years. And it's for the last 1,000 years that this date was chosen to be All Souls Day, the second of the month of November. And as people of faith, we are expected to pray for one another and to pray for those who have gone before us, those who have died. As many of you know from the homilies I give at the funerals of folks, I always remember them. I quote a spiritual writer who says, we're called to pray for one another, especially those who have died. And then I say, that author also goes on to say, don't forget that those who have died pray for you, for us. But tonight ain't about us. It's about those who have gone before us. And we have traditions in the church that remind us and help us, if you will, to pray for our deceased brothers and sisters. Every time we come to Mass, one of the intentions in the Eucharistic prayer is for those who have died. It's a general prayer, but we remember them all. We have a tradition amongst people, and it's interesting, some of these traditions are beginning to get lost in the era in which we live. But people will have a Mass, quote unquote, said, for the intentions of a certain person, for the intentions of a family, the Smith family or whatever. I remember every year my mother would say to me, now I need this list of Masses. And she would give me about 12 different dates here and stuff. One had to be for her parents and one for my father's parents. And there's a whole list of relatives, and we would have them remembered on a certain day. Might be anniversary of death. It could be, just a date that's picked throughout the year. People get, when someone dies, if someone were to die like today, and you say, I got to send them a little note, a card. I got to go to the wake. And many times people get a Mass said, so to speak. They get a Mass card. And whether they bring it to the wake or not, it's not that important. They might send it along a little bit after the funeral with a note. But that Mass card notes a certain day in the coming months where that person is being remembered. And these are things in which we sort of take note, if you will, and remember all our faithful departed. Remembering and praying for people happens, I think, in many ways. I was sitting there and something popped into my mind. And it had to do with this, as you know. I had back surgery about, 4 or 5 months ago. And one of the things the doctor wanted me to do was to walk every day. And so I go to the extreme, of course. I say, okay, not a problem. And fortunately, during the nice weather, God gave me this little path down by the Mohawk River. So most mornings, I'd walk the rectory, down the path, cross over where the Stewart's is, go underneath the bridge, and walk the almost 2 miles one way, 2 miles back. And of course, I'm playing some music, on my phone. But at the same time, you get to think, reflect, meditate, call it what you will. And one of the common thoughts that came to my mind and I'll tell you why in a second, was my parents, of course, my grandparents on both sides. And you say, well, how's that? Well, my mother and my grandparents lived on the other side of the river when I was a kid, or before I was a kid, my mother did. They lived on Cataract Street, right where the falls are. Oh, wow. And besides that, they owned a camp down on the Mohawk River. They had a summer place. You had to go underneath the Twin Bridges. And I was thinking about that, and when I was a kid, one of the things we do, we go visit the grandparents, And when we came here, we went to the camp most of the time. But we also went to Cataract Street, for all the holidays and all that. And obviously, all these people in my life are now past. They're no longer physically with us. But I certainly believe that they're with us in spirit. But how do we remember them? Certainly, when we think about them, it's a moment of prayer, even of itself, when we remember them. When we hear, for instance, that someone has died, you might be talking to somebody today and you say, gee, did you hear that, Fred or Bob, died? And you say, no, I didn't know that. It's a moment of prayer, whether it's verbal or just sort of within. We might say, people have different sayings, God bless them or God rest their soul, whatever. But it's a way of praying for them. And that's what we do tonight. Tonight is very simple. It's very simple. Remember our faithful departed. We especially remember those who have joined the communion of saints, that long line of people that have gone before us. And these people of the past year, particularly, who have joined that communion of saints. And so, let us pray.